A passenger on board an Air India flight from Bengaluru to San Francisco finds a metal blade in a bowl of chaat in an in-flight meal that was served to him. A customer in Noida found a centipede inside an ice cream tub. And a Mumbai-based doctor allegedly found a human finger in the ice cream that he had ordered online. A dead lizard found in a food plate in Delhi. Now, all of these incidents, interestingly, happened in the month of June. And we're not even talking about chemicals mixed in food items. These incidents of foreign objects found in food bear the question. We're asking, what are the rights of the public? What can they do? What are the provisions to reduce consumer issues such as bad food quality, unhygienic cooking styles, and more? Joining me to discuss this are Professor Bejon Mishra, consumer expert, Mr. Mahesh Zagade, former Commissioner, FDA, Maharashtra, and former Principal Secretary, the Government of Maharashtra, and my colleague Krishnakumar in the studio here with me. Krishna, we've heard of finger foods. You haven't heard of fingers being found in food, that ice cream incident, bizarre.
Absolutely bizarre and disgusting and dangerous. You know, the point here is that
it's no laughing matter.
It's no laughing matter, because what happened to all those quality checks before a product was rolled out of that processing unit? You know, how come that it slipped everything? And it's not something small. It's a finger that we're talking about. My initial reaction to that was that probably one of the workers over there had an accident in which the finger got lopped off. It fell inside, and they didn't bother checking as to what happened to the finger while they were attending to the person whose finger was lopped off. The question is, it's not just that one finger. Yes, that was an absolutely bizarre, the only way to put it is a bizarre incident, but all the other things, for finding a blade inside airline food.
Yes.
I mean, airline food has come under repeated scrutiny for containing not just blades, but other things as well. It's not even the first time that airline food packets have had things other than food in them.
Yes.
All of them, for example, if it happens inside an airline, you can definitely take the airline to court. What happens when you just buy an ice cream cone?
Yes.
And that which is made in millions and distributed across the country. So then it means that the ice cream maker can be taken to court.
Right.
All of which means that there are ways and means for users, for consumers to take the concerned parties. If it's an ice cream maker, it's an ice cream maker. If it's an airline, it's an airline, to court. The only question is that how often are we going to keep doing this? The point here is that I think be it the airline or the ice cream maker, both should be taken to task by the authorities concerned, by the government, to ensure that there are greater QC or quality checks.
Quality checks, absolutely. Let's ask the experts this, Krishna. Mr. Zagade, in June we've seen 4 such bizarre incidents of foreign objects, and as Krishna was saying, a finger in an ice cream cone. What are the checks and balances that exist to prevent this kind of a thing from happening, and how did this fail to be detected at all those QC things that all the food providing agencies are supposed to put in place?
See, we need to have 2 basic infrastructure for prevention of such things. Number one is, of course, the regulatory statutory provisions, that is the law and rules and regulations.
Right.
And number 2 is the machinery to implement these laws and the supervisory machinery to oversee whether these laws are getting properly implemented or not. So this is that. Now, number 1, about the statutory infrastructure, that is legal infrastructure, we have the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, which came into operation from August 2011.
Right.
Now, this law was brought in on the background of the failure of the earlier law, Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954. That did not do much, and that did not prevent such incidents that what we are discussing today. But the current law is one of the best laws across the globe.
Yes.
And what this law is, that this law secures protection of human life and human health.
Yes.
And number 1, and the basic premise of this law is that if somebody finds something like what you are discussing, that is like that's like too visual. But there are many other things, chemicals and so many other powerful elements that are those go unnoticed, but they are there. So the government and the parliament, in their own wisdom, they designed this law to prevent any such incidents. See, to take action against once the incident happened and somebody has consumed the food.
Post-haste, yes, absolutely.
So prevention is the basic spirit behind this law.
Right.
And for that, then they have created Food Safety and Standards Authority of India for the entire country.
Right.
And for every state, Food Safety Commissioner of the rank, not below the Secretary of State Government. And of course, the whole, this entire network of the food safety officers and all that, it is there. So if you ask me whether there is any proper legal infrastructure, yes, it is one of the best in the world. Whether the machinery and the supervisory machinery, yes, they are there. And this, whether this machinery, whether it is being implemented, then let me tell through you to the country that probably this is one of the most lopsided implemented laws in the country. Because see, it is like every day something is happening, and some national action is taken against those perpetrators of such, I would call it as a crime only, like those who fail to comply with the regulations. But that's not enough. This country has like forgotten to take action against those officials who are supposed to implement it, supposed to supervise it. And unless and until some action is taken against them, let's say, for example, you suggested about some fingers found in ice cream or metallic blade in airline. Oh, see, action against those manufacturers or distributors would be taken, but that's not enough. Action against the Food Safety Commissioner and action against the officials of the Food Safety and Standards Authority, unless and until that is done, this is not going to stop at all. The country should take note of this, otherwise, it's like a disastrous existence.
Absolutely, it's a disaster. And if you're looking at, like you said, Mr. Zagade, the fact that these were all visual evidence of contaminants in your food. I mean, I'm really worried to think about what else that we can't see that goes into the food, possibly the chemicals and the adulterated material that goes in that we consume without knowledge. But Professor Mishra, as a consumer activist, what's your view on this? We have all the best laws in the world, as Mr. Zagade mentioned, but it's a question of implementing it and punishing the guilty and the accused in this. What do you think will come out of all these rash of incidents that we've seen in June? Is anyone going to get punished for these transgressions?
See, let me tell you my experience. It took us 10 years to make this law, Food Safety and Standards Act of 2006, which actually sunsetted the Food Adulteration Act, which was there earlier from the British Raj. And then I was very fortunate to be nominated as a member of the Food Safety Authority representing the consumers in the authority from 2008 to 2013. Now, during that tenure, the stress which I made maximum as a member of the authority was to build a strong surveillance mechanism to ensure that the law is implemented, as Mr. Zagade mentioned, that implementation is the core, is the heart of any law. If you make the best of law and if you're not able to implement it, then that law is zero. So what we have to understand is, how do you implement a law efficiently and effectively? In order to do that, first is standard. Now this ice cream maker, he would have neglected the whole good manufacturing practice.
Yes.
For example, the food served by the airline to the passengers, there has been a total neglect in terms of adopting the best manufacturing and processing and packaging practices. And our law gives the best kind of standard. We have the best of standard to be implemented. Now, who follows those standards is very critical, and how you follow the standard is very critical. And the only way you can do it, and my friend Mr. Zagade will agree, being a food commissioner, a drug FDA commissioner in Maharashtra, he knows that what kind of challenges he faces in terms of manpower, their integrity, their commitment towards their profession, the transparency in terms of their working. Nothing is accountable and transparent to the consumer. We don't even come to know the process, adopt it. Don't even are allowed to look at a factory in terms of its processes. We as citizens should be allowed not only what the inspector is doing, but what the manufacturer is also doing. We should know. In my childhood days in school, I remember visiting the ice cream factory. I remember being made to visit the dairy factory. Now, why are those practices not being done today? Why are they shy of showing their good practices, good hygienic practices to the citizens? That is how we came into the concept of open kitchen in the restaurant. Why did we bring this concept? We brought that concept so that when we go to a restaurant to eat, we know exactly how the kitchen looks like, how the kitchen person, the chef is working, behind. We want to see it. It has to be transparent. It is not there. And that is the key reason why we are getting these kind of, errors and, substandard products and sub-quality products being supplied to us at a price which is abnormal.
Absolutely. Professor Mishra, I'm just going to interrupt you here and just ask you, what are the rights of a consumer in an incident like this? What must one do when you discover, say, a contaminant in your food, like,
Well, listen, the first thing the consumer should do is complain at the right place. That is the right, number one. Number two, the consumer must make sure that the government works in its favor, not push the consumer to go for legal justice. See, in our country, the consumers are pushed to go for legal justice, which is long drawn, cumbersome, expensive. Which consumer will go for an ice cream cone costing less than 500 rupees or 600 rupees to spend 50,000 rupees on filing a case?
Right.
Which consumer? Who is so absurd or who is so insane that he will spend his own hard-earned money of 50,000 rupees to get a refund of 500 or 1,000 rupees? He will never do that. So it gets neglected. It gets, drawn under the carpet. You see, the industry has to be taken to task by the government. The government has to be the litigant. The government has to punish the industry for its error and fault and negligence and deliberate act of negligence. Where is the regulator? Why are they sleeping? What are they meant for? Why public money is spent on them to give them all amenities and facilities, infrastructure to be used in the benefit of the consumer? Why it is not being used? The law is giving them the mandate to use it. Why is the regulator sleeping over it? I am not able to understand that. And nobody answers me this question, that why the heads are not rolling. Why haven't I seen the CEO or the chairman? Oh, by the way, that there's no chairman of the Food Safety Authority, it's an interim chairman. Their heads must roll when such incidents happen.
No, the fact that you mentioned there's an interim chairman suggests that there's a manpower issue or a shortage. Mr. Zagade, you hinted at this earlier on, that there is a shortage of personnel, inspectors. Tell us how difficult it is for you when you were in the FDA to run an organization that has public safety at its core core.
See, like Bejon has said about the flaws in the implementation, I agree with him. No issue about that. But let me tell you one thing. The machinery is there, adequate machinery is there. How much machinery you need? I mean, there will not be any requirement will go on and on and on. But whatever machinery I had at my disposal, what you are required is to put them in right perspective and get the work done from them. Now, if you scan my 3 years, that will be a study in itself. Now, it is not the machinery that I brought from outside. It's the same machinery I put to job. Maybe you require more machinery, but with the existing machinery also, you can really do a wonderful job and you can secure implementation of this law. Now, the flaw doesn't lie with the political leadership. The flaw lies with the administrative leadership, the secretaries, the secretaries of health, or in some states, secretaries of food, and the commissioners or food safety commissioners. Their heads must roll like Bejon has said about the Food Safety and Standards Authority. Unless until that happens, it is not going to change anything. Now, if why these heads do not roll? That is the question.
Right.
Let me tell you, and I don't have anything hide. It's only the money that plays the role, just money. And in India, there's a culture of hafta. Probably the FDAs and food safety commissioners' offices all across the country, they are involved in this. And I have said this on so many occasions. The law is such that all the activities and events in food sector, they are either licensed or the registration is taken from farm to fork.
Right.
Like sourcing of raw material, transportation, processing, storage, wholesale distribution, and the retail distribution. So everything is there. all precautions are there in the statute, including what it should contain and what it should not contain. The food product that has got some aberrations is not supposed to come in the market. If by accident it comes in the market, there has to be food recall. Now, how many food batches recall has been ordered by these officials? It's not. I mean, nobody questions this. First issue is about people cannot go to court. They are not supposed to go to court. When they paid their taxes, the salaries of the people managing this food safety ecosystem, they have already paid. So it is the governmental machinery. They are supposed to implement it. And if there are some ships in the profession, they are supposed to take stringent action so that it becomes deterrent for the other players in the field. I think what country can do is, like the people's representative, see, we normally have food 3 times a day. But we do not know the food safety officer who's there in my area. We never commit a crime, but we know the food police station and who's the police inspector there. So country should change. They should really bring them out of their hibernation and see that whether they are doing their job or not. Unfortunately, this machinery is not known to anyone. So the first point about how these things could be changed is about the country should really bring them above the surface and make them work. Otherwise, it is just like nexus between the official machinery and the food manufacturers or the traders. Just that and nothing else. And what havoc it is creating on human body and human mind, it is unfathomable. Probably people do not have. We talk about increase in the there are kidney failures and heart attacks and these and cancer
because of
all that.
adulterated food. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Zagade. I mean, any surprises, Krishna, there? Mr. Zagade himself, former FDA official, saying that there is a nexus between food manufacturers and officialdom, and that's the reason that all these incidents are happening. Everything's brushed under the carpet.
Yes, and another point that Mr. Bejon Mishra made as well, how often can consumers keep taking these people to court?
Exactly.
There is no time for it. There is no, and also the monetary expenses are way too much for at least he's talking about a 500 rupee ice cream, which is probably a half a kilo of ice cream. For a 50 rupee ice cream cone, you can't possibly be spending 50,000 rupees in court to fight that kind of litigation. So clearly, none of this would happen if there wasn't a previously existing nexus. One, that nexus need to be broken so that we can first of all move on from these bizarre experiences of finding human fingers in our ice creams. And then comes the question of actually how healthy and safe are our ice creams with its actually stated ingredients. Like we're asking questions on why is there so many of our snacks made in palm oil. Same way, how are our ice creams made? Are our ice creams, the mass-produced ice creams, actually safe for us to eat even without a human finger in them? Absolutely. That will be the next question.
Absolutely. This is the next question, and in fact there are many more such questions, but before I conclude, I want to ask Mr. Mishra this question, that the fact that there have been a number of incidents of late, Mr. Mishra, of airline foods, all kinds of objects being found in them. What is the kind of, pressure that the consumers, the airline passengers can bring on airlines to ensure that such incidents don't recur?
You see, we must appreciate that the mechanism is in place. There are parliamentary committees cutting across political parties who are attached to various ministries like Civil Aviation, Health Ministry, Consumer Affairs Ministry. And the role of these parliamentary affairs committee attached to the ministries is to take up these causes on behalf of the consumers.
Yes.
Which they never take up. They just go sit in a meeting, may raise some issues which doesn't come in public domain. What they raise, of course, sometimes their minutes are also put in public domain, but how many people have time to do all that research? So the only way is take help of the media like we are doing, tell you all to magnify it, raise the voice of the citizens to make things happen which are not happening, and compel the government, the lawmakers, and the policy makers, take cognizance to our voice, to our raising the issues, and give us a solution in a prompt manner, not in a delayed manner, which we are talking about good governance, which our Honorable Prime Minister is always stressing the point.
Yes, absolutely.
Less government, more governance. So we need good governance.
We need good governance. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more there, Professor Mishra. And I mean, I think that's a fitting conclusion to this, the fact that it is the government that is asleep in all of these cases. And as tax-paying citizens, the next time you find something in your food, it's up to you to raise your voice, blow the whistle, and get the sleeping government to act, to crack down. But thank you very much, Professor Mishra, Mr. Zagade, and my colleague Krishnakumar for throwing light on this topic that affects all of us. Finger in your ice cream, and God knows what else in your food that's being served to you.